Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. Council members, at this time, would you please stand for the invocation which will be given by Reverend Aaron Fuller from St. Andrew Lutheran Church, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Fuller.
Would you please pray with me? Almighty and everlasting God, guide these, our civic leaders in the city of Portsmouth, that they may be just in purpose, wise in counsel, and unwavering in duty. In the administration of their solemn responsibilities, may they protect the weak, serve those who have entrusted them to this office, and honor all people, leading with integrity and, above all, grace. Help us all to be faithful, remembering always that you are faithful to us first, and we ask this all in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Fuller, I want to thank you very much, sir, for coming. And as always, I'd like to give you a minute if you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and your church and what you're doing here in the city of Portsmouth. And again, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. I'm a Lutheran pastor and serve two small congregations. I'm also a chaplain in the Navy Reserve. And so I serve in various capacities, doing a lot of suicide awareness and things like that. This is a kind of a new area for me. I'm a Minnesota farm boy, dairy farm kid, so learning the South is a whole different thing to me. But, I've really come to admire the city of Portsmouth for the things that it offers. I think a lot of times in my moving around the region, I think people have a lot of misconceptions and don't know. But as I talk to my people and what they're looking for, I think there are lots of wonderful things happening, and there's something spirit moving within it. And so I know those are hard issues that you all face, and so I don't envy you. I like where I sit, kind of. But know that you're all prayed for, as well as all of you out there, that our congregations are praying for the city and its people and its leaders every Sunday, and the things that you do.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Good night. Okay, members of the City Council, would you please indicate your presence electronically?
6 members of City Council are present.
Thank you. Members of the City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of February 22nd, 2016, a call meeting of February 23rd, 2016, and a regular meeting of February 23rd, 2016. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. The minutes are adopted 6-0.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 3 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 3 minutes, you will see a green light. 2 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 3 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments. City Manager's Report 16-76. Adoption of an ordinance to amend Section 25-92 of Chapter 25 and Appendix A of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, to amend the definition of senior and to establish an optional annual rate for seniors participating in fitness class programs. Vision principle, efficient service delivery. Electronic roll call, and I have a speaker, Mr. Mark Adoldik-Utrovsky.
Good evening, Council and fellow citizens. So the ink is barely dry on the ordinance that set fees for use of park and recreation facilities and established ID cards, and you're back tinkering with it. That gives me some heartburn because you're creating a special class of user now beyond the previously established classes. Now you have seniors. Now you have junior seniors because you're redefining seniorhood or seniorship to 55, which is an unconventional standard. So you've pushed it back 10 years from where it was before. Now, I would say that if you were going to make a change in the categories to favor one class of user, you should probably do the same thing on the bottom end. So youth should go to 26 from 18, or actually under 18, because after all, under the Affordable Care Act, youngsters in their mid-20s can get coverage on their parents' health insurance. So why not work it from both ends? What you're doing is pandering to a particular group of people in the city. And you haven't established in your new criteria that these are people in actual economic need. They've just come to you with a plea to reduce their fees. Well, how about if all the taxpayers in the city come to you with a similar plea? How about reducing our real estate taxes, our personal property taxes, or the jacked up vehicle registration fee from 2 years ago? Because we don't want to pay those fees. Now, as somebody who spoke against the implementation of the fee schedule in the first place, you know, I'm resigned to the idea of having these fees in place, but I don't think you should be making exceptions for a particular class of customer. That's it. It's a basic fairness issue.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Okay. Dr. Whitaker.
Mr. Godowski-Utrowski, I had a question for you. In regards to the freeze that you're referring to, and not freeze, but given special consideration to certain groups, should we also apply that same logic to the senior real estate tax?
If you applied the same criteria to the real estate exemption that you use for the real estate exemption that you are for this, I'd be perfectly fine with that because there is means testing involved in the freeze and the waiver. So yes, if you means tested, that would be perfectly fine. But you're saying seniors across the board. The other thing is seniors are starting at 55 here, where they do not for the real estate taxes.
Okay. That's legitimate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Members of council, there are no additional speakers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you're going to be voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 16-77, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $7,345.50 from the United Way of Southampton Roads and appropriating said funds in the FY 2015-16 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Social Services to provide rent, mortgage, and utility payment assistance, vision principles, sustainable neighborhoods, enhanced quality of life, and lifelong learning community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for adoption.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 16-78, adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of City of Portsmouth, Virginia general obligation refunding bonds. Vision principle, efficient service delivery. Electronic roll call, and I have a speaker, Mr. Mark Godalda-Kutrovsky.
Good evening again, Council and fellow citizens. I'm a person who believes in saving money, and generally I have been in support of the idea of refinancing when it was economically advantageous. But I have a concern about the current proposal, and I would like you to defer this until the questions I have been answered. When your financial advisor appeared before you in work session last evening, he glossed over the costs that would be incurred by the city in doing this refinancing. And these are things, it's like refinancing a mortgage for an individual homeowner. There are points to pay on a mortgage. There are underwriting fees that you pay whenever you go through one of these evaluations. You're going to bring in the rating agencies. There are going to be bond counsel involved. So there's a lot of money going into the hands of intermediaries before the city gets anything back. The other thing that gave me pause was in the documentation, the amount of savings was in the $3 to $5 million range, but when he presented last night, he was talking about present value, and that works out to about $1.5 million, he said, based on current conditions in the bond markets. But by the time you get to the other end of the pipeline, that may well dwindle, and some of the overhead costs you will incur in the course of finding out what the final rate is. So I would like you to call him back and ask him for your own edification, what are the actual costs? Give us a good faith estimate of what this is going to cost, because $1.5 million present value over a 15 to 20 year term works out to a very small amount of money over that period of time, and could result in some upfront costs that we have to absorb within the next fiscal year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Let me just state, now thank you were at the meeting last night. There are certain standards that we apply before we go after the whole refinancing piece, and if those things are not met, he clearly stated that we would put it in a holding pattern or have his terminology shelf ready. So if the market does become favorable and meet the standards that we want, we'll already be in place, Mr. Yatrosky. So I hear you what you're saying, and you're right. There are costs involved with doing any type of business. But this city has done a lot over these last few years to enhance our financial situation, and we have, over the last few years, taken advantage of favorable interest rates that has yield savings to the citizens, and we will continue to do that, sir.
I respect that approach, sir, and as I said, I've spoken in favor of these before, but with the prospects for the Federal Reserve to continue to ratchet up rates, I'm not sure that you're going to see a decline at some point in the near term. So shelf ready means gathering dust on the shelf, perhaps, in the current interest rate environment.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, Mayor. I was not here last night, but the bond, how old is the bond?
Well, we're refinancing some bonds in year 2009, 2010. Some of them that we're looking at about a 3% savings, which is where our threshold is with the refinancing piece. So
would that come back in front of us, or this is one time?
Yeah, this is the resolution to go ahead and get him going and getting all that stuff in place, because these things are time sensitive and dealing with the market and market fluctuations and the indicators that he had mentioned, that this is probably the best time to move forward. So we've got to at least give him authorization to get started, and that's what we're doing tonight. All right, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. There are no additional speakers. We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. New business 16-79, boards and commissions. Councilman Edmonds.
I have no report at this time.
Thank you. 16-80, items submitted by council members.
Let me first of all defer to our city manager. We've had some information that's been floating in the public that has been extremely inaccurate, and it's been plastered across the news media and all other outlets, and we just feel that it's our responsibility to make a public statement in that regard, because, again, we're not here to play games or debate back and forth matters that we should not be dealing with as a council and as a personnel matter. And because that matter falls in that realm, this council can't comment or have anything to do with that. So at this time, Dr. Patton.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I am aware of a personnel matter being discussed in the media. Respectfully, the disciplinary disposition of all employees under the city manager's purview is a personnel matter, and I cannot discuss further. Employees are entitled to speak about issues of public concern as it relates to issues in the public domain. However, all city employees are required to follow the City of Portsmouth administrative policy directives. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion this evening to eliminate the position of auditor effective immediately.
Second.
Madam Clerk, yes.
Members of council, in order for you all to vote on this, it needs to be added to the agenda. Right. And then once we get a full consensus vote on it, then you would vote on the item. So you need to add it to the agenda first.
I'd like to add an item to the agenda, please.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. You'll be voting electronically. Ew. Okay. This motion has a 3-3 vote, so it dies.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I move that we amend the rule of council that, since its adoption last year, has caused further division among the members of this council, as well as consternation among citizens of our city. It's also believed to be unconstitutional to boot. That, of course, is the portion of council rule that allows members to fine one another upwards of $1,500. That rule serves no justifiable purpose, and once again, I think it won't be long before it's deemed unconstitutional. I do feel that council can certainly censor members, but to fine them is something that we need to change. So my motion now is to eliminate that rule. And as the clerk said earlier, I move that that item be added to the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Council members,
okay, you want to speak on this, Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I will be voting no against it. I do find it interesting that we have two members on council who have an issue with fining when back in 2009, both of you voted to fine Dr. Holly $2,500, and you had no issues with doing that at the time. I said two.
Oh.
See, one, you would make three. 1, 2. And so I think Mr. Moody and Ms. Simmons at that time voted to fine Dr. Holly. And it's interesting how after his death we hold him in such high esteem, although we recalled him twice and fined him. And so I'm a little interested in how you don't see that as an issue back then, but it's interesting you see it today.
Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor.
Further discussion?
Well, I'm going to respond. My colleague made a point. I did and do hold Mayor Holly in high esteem. That fine that Ms. Simmons and I were part of council on is like comparing apples to pineapples. We fined Mayor Holly for totaling a city vehicle, his city vehicle that he drove. He totaled it by hitting the side of a HRT bus over Newport News on a weekend in an area of town that most people don't visit. So that's why he was fined for destroying city property, not for sharing information that should have been transparent with the citizens of the city. You weren't on council, so I'm sure you didn't know the details.
Yeah, but I can read, and I do know that your issue does not involve of why you fined him. Your issue is saying that there's no basis for fining, and I'm saying that you found a basis, and that was in the state code, and that hasn't changed.
Mr. Meeks?
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry to tell, we were informed improperly by our city attorney that said we were given this power. I had to hire outside counsel to get to the root of it. We don't have that power as a body. It has to be given to us by the state. And y'all can sit here and play this game back and forth, but if it don't stop, if this doesn't get repealed, the damage it would cause you four that signed it is not going to be fun and games. So y'all can do whatever y'all want here. It'll be a civil suit outside of here for myself.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. All right. Madam Clerk? There's a motion and
Yes,
a
sir.
second.
There's a motion and a second before you to add an item to the agenda. This item has a 3-3 vote. It is denied.
All right. Thank you. Any other? Dr. Whitaker?
Yes,
sir.
Mr. Mayor, just want to ask our city manager if we could, at our next meeting, get an update on the modified PRHA contract that the executive director mentioned when he spoke before us, that there would be some modification to the Lincoln Park contract, and also an update on the lead poisoning. Although we know PRHA is a separate entity, we appoint the board, but those persons that are affected are citizens of Portsmouth, and we shouldn't let that line of demarcation cause us to have any less concern, because they are our citizens, and would like to get an update on where we are with that whole lead poisoning situation.
Cut your mic. Yes, ma'am.
I have an update on the first item, which you asked at our last meeting. Speaking with Hal Short, in regard to your request about the contracts, he indicated that when the development partner identifies a client, they will finalize a contract to reflect the 25% minority contracting requirements. He will keep the city council apprised through his city liaisons, his PRHA liaisons, when this matter takes place. I will seek information on the leg poison in peace.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, Madam Clerk.
16-81, report on pending items, and we have none this evening. 16-82, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Betty Ashbury.
Betty Ashbury, Churchland section of Portsmouth. I've questioned my son-in-law frequently on why he's associated with a minority contractor in Norfolk. And I've asked him many times why he hasn't submitted more bids to the city of Portsmouth for projects in Portsmouth. His answer to me was, because your city is too damn hard to do business with. After witnessing the inquisition by Councilman Whitaker to the two gentlemen trying to invest in Portsmouth at the meeting several weeks ago, I know exactly what he means. I do not understand how some of you could sit there like deers in a headlight, and if you don't know what that means, you need to look it up, and allow that to happen. And Councilman Whitaker, I believe at that meeting you also stated it takes consciousness and courage for moral leadership. Well, I believe we saw a perfect example of that in Joe Wright that night. And I have the privilege to call Joe and Betty Wright very good friends, and I think they are perfect examples for our young people to emulate. And I'm a huge fan of history. And I hope a great many of the young people do look at these meetings and look things up. Since you get older, you have had the privilege of being able to live through a lot of the history. I could remember the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the beginning of World War II, and the ending of World War II, the assassination of President Kennedy, the ending of segregation and the business of integration, which was supposed to bring us all together. But there are still some who are still trying to divide us. We're not going to let that happen. Also, I was privileged to be able to hear Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And I believe in that speech he made, he said, I dream of little black boys and little black girls, hand in hand with little white boys and little white girls. I see that every day because my backyard backs up to Churchland Elementary School, and there's no hate there until the adults can get hold of them and plant it. I just want to say to some of the members of council tonight, thank goodness a few of you all listen to what we say. Not all of you do. But to the citizens of Portsmouth, just wait on for a little while because there's light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Mr. Barry Randall.
Good evening, members of City Council. My name is Barry Randall from the Brighton section of Portsmouth. I'm here tonight because what you all have in front of you all, some propaganda that our mayor has involved himself in, where it says Aunt B and Uncle Barry, P-Town Plantation. What's so sad is, if you look throughout a lot of the information here, and the patent, please make sure you spend some time reading it, where he talks about me and Elizabeth Simmons having a love affair. It's real sad because how do we expect our firemen and our police officers to have any type of morale when our mayor is being messy? That senior stood up here last city council meeting and spoke to you, Mr. Mayor, about him not having his benefits, and you was rude after Mr. Moody asked him a question and shut him down. Even if you really were sick and tired of him, if you know how to be mayoral, you would have at least pretended to care. At the end of the day, you don't have to like me, sir, but you owe the vice mayor who you appointed because you don't like Paige Cherry, but y'all front for the public. But the reality is, you picked her as vice mayor. When you have integrity, that's what leaders have. When I was at Planet Fitness, as you can see, I picked up Health at Portsmouth where you put it down. And when I was in there, a gentleman said to me, a businessman that I had respect for, he said to me, you need to pull the mayor up in here. And I laughed. I'm not going to lie, I laughed. But then this is where it didn't get funny. The gentleman said to me, you also need to pull his daughters. And I said, hold up, sir. You and I may not support Kenny Wright, but don't you dare bring his children in this situation. I had a little bit of respect for you, but when you got to the point to where you told the gentleman in this article that this is a marathon, save his bullets for the summer, that you promised him a corner office for the work that he's doing or will do, and how you said that I turned on you and fell in love with Aunt B. Do you really think that's what our city manager needs on her shoulder when she's trying to balance a budget? But you over in Norfolk demanding the people at the game to let you in because you're the mayor? You're not a strong mayor. This is a city manager government. She has a number one and a number two. You have nobody. You have one vote. You a glorified councilman. And at the end of the day, you sat here in the beginning and said you all can't involve yourself with personnel. Then why was you on the phone with the chief of police? Why was you in Norfolk asking for your number two? I'm going to be honest with you, sir. I'm running for city council, but don't make me change my mind and run for mayor.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Mr. Randy Bailey.
Y'all match.
Nice dress.
Is that a...
Well, I was going to speak on some budget things, but you threw me a curveball.
Not here. Not here.
Yeah. I spent 30 years defending this country and supporting the First Amendment of the Constitution. And I firmly believe that there are people who work in this city that have the right to speak, especially when it involves the safety of the citizens, because that's what these people dedicate their lives to. They take pride in the service that they provide to the citizens because they don't ask for accolades, medals, or anything special out of the way. They come to work to serve and protect the people. And they only request that they have the equipment and the apparatus and the people to do the job. And if they feel that there's a danger, then they have the obligation to inform people that that danger is there. And that's part of their pride, to take pride in their job, to have enough pride to show that they care. So to suspend somebody, I find that a bit ridiculous. So tonight I say to anybody who has a badge, police, fire, sheriff, EMT, 911 worker, if you have a complaint, if you have a grudge or a gripe, you come and see me, and I will put it on TV for you. If I have to, I will call a friend of mine. His name is Wolf Blitzer, and we will put it on CNN. And if I have to drag him in here to do an interview, I will. Because I support these people, because they're here to protect the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Miss Margaret Magruder.
Well, no, not me. I had to come.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council representatives. My name is Maggie Magruder, and I live at 111 High Street. Tonight I want to talk to you about the secrecy of the City Council and the city's trash contract. Did you ever think that the citizens of Portsmouth could help you in situations that face our city? I attended the SIPS's regional meeting this past Friday on March the 4th. For those here that do not know who SIPSA is, they are the people who make up the board who represents the region on the trash disposal. Southeastern Public Service Authority Board, SIPSA. They are the local trash authority. I do not have enough time to tell you everything about this meeting that was on Friday, but after I got there, I decided that I had to speak to the board. There were only 3 speakers at this important meeting, and these 3 speakers were Portsmouth citizens. There were only 3 bids submitted for this new trash contract. 2 bids were almost the same. The new company's bid, Repower South, was so much lower than the other 2 bids. My concern as a citizen was that the new company who put in the lowest bid. That's what my concern was. My concern with the new company was, of course, why was their bid so much lower than the other 2 bids? And how could they guarantee anything when they had not even built their facility yet to do what they said that they were going to do? I could not even understand how a bid or contract could be accepted by the board when a loan had not even been secured to build their facility. I pointed out that the contract that we had now with Wheelabrator supplied the steam to the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, which was a major regional employer, and they supplied many jobs to our region, and they supported our economy around the region also. Also, I asked the board, would we be having big trucks running up and down the highway if we had a new contract? I asked a lot of questions to the board for them to think about. I do not have time to go over all of the things that I asked and that I talked about my concerns. I know the 3 citizens of Portsmouth that spoke to the board that day did make a difference at the meeting.
Thank you,
anyway.
ma'am. Thank you very much. Councilman Meeks.
Thank you very much. On last Thursday, it was 2 votes. We were supposed to sustain on one, and vote no on the other, abstain, or no on both. We voted yes on one and no on the other. Can I get an answer on how that happened, if you don't mind? Maybe from the city manager.
Okay. Are you done, Ms. Meeks?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay. Yeah, the city manager, and she certainly can answer, and the representative of the board was following the directions of the council, and that's what the council instructed them to do.
When did that vote occur or change? When did the vote or the change occur? Because we gave them direction in there.
It was not a vote.
Did we call and get a census? And no, you didn't. So you're telling me the direction of council, that was not the direction that I remember in the open session.
Okay.
So when did it change, and who directed you to change it? How about that? City manager. I'm asking. Can you answer that question? Dr. Patton? Can somebody answer the question? I mean, did you change the answer?
All right.
Now listen.
Done?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Because if you change the answer, I mean, what we told her, the same group our mayor worked for his first job, and his brother still works with the brother. His brother still works at that company today. So I definitely have a problem with it if it got changed, because I didn't get a phone call at all. If that's what we're playing, I'm fine with that. But it's not going to be tolerated. Because in that meeting, our mayor sat right beside the guy from Repower. And I was not there, but I was told. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. All right. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Principles of Liberty 1 is, the only reliable basis for sound government and just human relations is natural law. Bob Hardison wrote an article, The Law of Human Nature and Relationships, when he became sober, February 28, 1974. He wrote about the nature of all relationships he had ever known in his life as a result of another relationship ending. In his search for answers, he suddenly realized that there were three aspects which governed and defined all the relationships he had known. He asked himself, why was I or anyone else in a relationship? The answer, to satisfy physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual needs. He pondered the flip side. If I am to have a satisfying relationship with another person to fulfill my needs, then the responsibility of creating and maintaining the relationship rests with me, not the other person. Why? Their needs may already be met in the status quo, and they may not need to change or grow. All relationships with oneself, with others, and with one's creator are governed by communication, affinity or liking, and reality. Communication is the basis of all relationships. We need to talk with another human being. True communication has 5 actions, and it is our responsibility to ensure that all 5 actions are complete for true communication. The second is affinity. Affinity is about all the degrees of liking, from violent anger and hate on the negative end of the scale to total, infinite love on the positive end. We have a negative relationship with people for whom we hold resentments or grudges, whom we have not forgiven, although it may be only one-sided relationship, an illusion, our own in our head. This can only become positive with forgiveness. The third is reality. Reality is the agreement of what the individual has defined as true for himself and his relationship. It may not be truth or reality, but it is his truth and his reality about his relationship. And to that extent only, it doesn't have to be anyone else's truth or reality. As a point in fact, in any relationship situation where formerly that relationship was flowing smoothly and with likingness, and it suddenly becomes upset, you can be assured that there has been an input of some sort in some manner by a third party. Who is the third party on our city council preventing communication and freedom of speech? Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Meeks?
Mayor, I'm still not a real last subject. I really need to ask Dr. Patton. Dr. Patton, and I can't direct you, it takes 4, but you obviously, did you talk to 4 people or did you just take the mayor's word? That's a direct question for you.
Madam Manager, would you answer Mr. Meeks?
Yes. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, the decision and the direction that was taken in the vote for Friday, which was a special meeting, was the direction of council during our meeting, which everyone was in attendance. In my talking with council members, just reminding them that in their meeting, you all agreed that we vote, that Mrs. Cordell, not we, Mrs. Cordell vote no on the form agreement, and yes on the negotiations for SIPSA to move forward with Repower.
That is on tape, correct?
You can ask the clerk what's on tape.
It's on tape, correct? What? That meeting, not open, or is that closed session?
I was going to say,
it's closed session. That is not what we gave her. But that's fine. If that's what you remember, that's fine.
Well, you have all your members of council here, so they can vouch for what their decisions are.
It's no problem. I'll take the. But you know what we give the region a false sense that we're, and maybe the wish of this council is to follow suit. Willa Brader pays us a lot. We have to put it out for bid. They might not, but they pay us a lot of tax money, and we're joining a group of people that has no proven technology. This same technology has been shut down in Texas, Alabama, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and New York. All right? But look, they're so smart right now, they're going to make it work in Portsmouth or Hampton Roads. All right, so this is, I don't agree with this technology. I don't agree with giving false hope if we're going a different direction. And, the region is, we have a no from Virginia Beach and a no from Suffolk, but we had a yes from Portsmouth. Yep. And this idea does not work without the city of Virginia Beach. They have 135,000 tons of garbage. This place needs 170,000 for it to work. And the region is 430,000 tons. It's a numbers game. We're a pond. We go out, their price goes up. That's how it works. All right? And for us to say yes to anything on that, they'll cut. And if you read the contract, if you look what Chesapeake has, Chesapeake can be pulled out at any time. And it's in their backyard. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Just for the record, Mr. Meeks,
Yeah, I know.
the decisions that were made the other day had nothing to do with that and making an analysis. The city of Portsmouth or any other city in this region has not decided where we're going. That was a board decision by SIPSA as to them going to their next steps. And when our representatives tell us things that are not able to be put in public, the things that they're not comfortable with, we ask them to abstain. The things that had nothing to do with obligating the city of Portsmouth, we asked them to move forward. And so nothing that happened last week has obligated the city of Portsmouth or given any indication that we're going in a certain direction. That is still for this council to decide once those matters are brought before us, and they haven't been brought before us yet. So anyway, I just wanted to say that for public.
Just one other thing.
Sure.
I did talk to Sharon, and I talked to Luke McCord. Sharon said, Danny, I heard exactly what you heard. No. Luke McCord said, Danny, I was going to say no and yes anyways. And he has that right because he's appointed by the governor. I do not have a problem with that. But when I talked to Sharon, she's very smart. She knows what she heard. She said it changed in our meeting that the day before. And I told her, I said, thank you very much. So therefore, my problem went to the city manager. I don't know what happened, but I see right here, but I'm fine with it. We'll just go along and see how it works out. Thank you.
Right. But again, the city of Portsmouth is not committed to any contract or any of those types of things. Right. So the wheelabrator piece and all of those things are still viable options that we must explore as a body. All right? Yep. Madam Clerk.
Ms. Doris Cross. She's not here.
Chicken dumplings.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, I'm addressing you tonight in reference to the letter that was sent to the retirees on January 14, 2016. After carefully rereading the letter, I did see that this insurance transition was called a pilot program. Well, my understanding is that being called pilot means the first in a series of attempts with something new. In other words, let's try this and see how it works. My question is, what happened? The letter continues to state that the program was very successful, being that it helped the retirees tremendously with our insurance costs. So if it was a pilot and it was successful, why was it eradicated? It sounds as if this letter contradicts itself. But then I have to realize the letter didn't write itself. I've come to the conclusion that there is no consistency within our leaders, neither written nor verbal. But who cares? Because the retirees are left to suffer the consequences. We cannot solve the problem that were created by someone in a higher position. Thank you.
Ms. Cross, if I could just share with you, there is and was some consistency tonight. This council in the work session has shared with the manager that we are not comfortable with this STEP program. We cannot go back and recount or understand what the previous manager or whoever the people that spoke to the seniors to convince you to make this move. The documents that we have don't quite spell it out either.
They don't?
Because you work for this city.
I didn't work for it. Let me correct you.
Okay, go ahead.
Because every time I make a call to either Human Resources or whomever I'm supposed to talk to,
right,
the first thing they ask me, what department did I retire from?
Right.
I didn't work for the city.
Okay.
My husband did.
Correct.
32 years of service.
Right.
And what he left belongs to me.
That's right.
He can't speak for himself, but I can speak for him.
Okay. So, and as I was saying, we are going to, and we have asked the manager to look at staying with the $1,400 this year so we can have ample time to do a better study of just what transpired there. We do really, truly value your husband and our seniors who have worked and labored with this city. This is not an inconsistency, okay? We will make sure that this policy and this program is done in its proper order. There are members up here, from Mr. Moody to Dr. Whitaker to every one of us, that are not comfortable with what transpired, and we're going to make it right. Okay?
I'll see it when I believe it when I see it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Mr. Garland Alexander.
Does anybody want to add anything to that? Did that make it? Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Garland Alexander, and I'm here tonight to address the $1,400 HRA funds for 320 employees. This fund is a benefit to retirees to offset the rising costs of health care, insurance, medicine. For instance, my insurance, along with other people, went up $440 last year. And I'm saying that because talking about cutting it back, everything's going up. In the work session dated February 23rd, Elizabeth Gooding stated that it was $1.3 million saved, less $420,000 for the HRA fund, $152,000 for the retiree spouse who did not come over to the health insurance. This left a net gain of a savings of $728,000. The city and the taxpayers have saved $728,000. We retirees are asking only for a small part of the $1.3 million. This shows that retirees who have put in many years of service are cared about. Please instruct the city manager to keep the HRA funds at $1,400 per year as presented to us when we dropped from the health insurance. They talked about in the work session tonight it was discussed to dispense this HRA funds on an individual basis. That will be impossible. To administer this because it was only administered for 8 months. If you use it for all that was qualified to be used for, it would be gone in 3 months. Would everyone stand that agrees with me, please? Do you have any questions?
No, sir. Thank you. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Alexander. Last time you spoke, I couldn't speak. Tonight, I can speak. The mayor mentioned that there is support to do something. I've made it clear that I support maintaining what was tendered to the retirees, and that was the $1,400. Important to note that the city manager tonight said that she would get back to council on the 22nd, I believe, is the date. So hopefully we can get this thing resolved to everybody's satisfaction. But I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention. I think you were one of the earlier ones that made it known that we had changed in the middle of the stream, but hopefully we can correct it.
I appreciate that. I'll give you all a packet with some other information on it. The second letter I don't have time to go over, but there was other things that we lost in this, the $3,000 deduction for our taxes for police officers and firefighters. That's about $300 or $400. There's a lot to it. Pre-existing conditions, we're out of that now. You know, we lost all that right when we... So there's a lot to it. We appreciate all the help.
And I understand other expenses have increased since that time.
Yes, and they're going to continue to increase. But the main thing is, to me and a lot of us, Ms. Cross, I believe, is one of them, the pre-existing condition is a big thing. We've lost that ability to get... We could have gotten a cheaper policy, a better policy for a less premium last year without going through one exchange. But we had to go through one exchange in order to receive the $1,400 that we felt like was going to continue.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hold on. Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, Ms. Garland. As we mentioned in the earlier session, we're going to do what's fair. And as you know, you've sent emails to me as well as other council members with the documentation. And I just want to make sure what Mr. Moody said, that's not misperceived. The $1,400 and the memo that you sent to me was for a certain fiscal year. You know, within that same paragraph that it did mention that that would be adjusted in subsequent years. So I just want to make sure we're trying to be fair, but let's not put a standard out there that didn't exist because we want to do what's right, but we want to do it within the context in which it was communicated based on what the written documents show. None of us were present when previous administration made verbal statements to you. But we do have the written document that you sent that says that that was a certain fiscal year commitment, not subsequent years. But we're going to do what's fair.
Well, may I address that?
Briefly.
It could be raised, too, I mean, as well as decreased. But we're not asking for that. But a lot of the council here was there. It was just last year when this happened. So, and we had to stay in the old city plan through April. And first they weren't even going to tell us how much. And they finally came out with the $1,400. Now, we knew that council had to approve it each year. We also understood that it was in the budget through June of this year. Well, the manager cut it off as of January this year. But we understood a lot of the stuff, but had a lot of members here, including the one that spoke before me, I believe, had they had an inkling that it was going to be cut off or reduced with a pre-existing condition, they would have never stayed in. And that's a fact.
We're with you. We're with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes. All right, Madam Clerk. Mr. Garland, while you're there, there was an assertion that I was rude to you at the last time. Did I not share with you that we have all listened to you, and I think I spent an hour on my phone at home talking with you, and we were loud and clear, and we thanked you for what you brought up to the council's attention, and we were taking action based on that. Is that not what I shared with you?
Well, you talked to me a long time that night because you didn't know who I was and you thought I might be bigger than I am, maybe. But yes,
None of that didn't size you up. Right.
But you did. You did call me to order about taking too long, and I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
There's no problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good night, sir. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Michael Thornton.
Hey, I'm Michael Thornton. Thanks for letting me speak. I stay in Brighton. This is my first time speaking in public, so I hope I don't bore everybody to sleep. I've been told my writing's almost as good as WWE's Heidenreich, if anybody knows who that is. He writes poems. Anyway, back to my speech. Welcome all people to the port town of Portsmouth. We be pirates on a never-ending quest for booty. Every day we live for a better Portsmouth. Some of us read Bibles, some of us read dictionaries, some of us read newspapers, some of us are crime fighters, some of us set up shop and run the storefronts, planting flowers, pruning bushes, and picking up litter. Every little bit counts. Some of us don't put our charisma to its best use. If we're popular, we need to influence others to do good too. It bothers me that people like to throw their garbage all over the place, especially beer bottles, beer cans, and cigarette cartons. And then I realize, if we want to raise taxes, let's tax that stuff. These people are obviously drinking and smoking so much that they're too inebriated or too out of breath to get to a trash can. Many people refer to the tunnel tolls as the Bob Virginia water crisis. Bob be a pirate too. He's always been extremely jealous of our city's potential. Portsmouth has lots of churches. Once upon a time, Jesus went to a church and went on a rampage, calling that place a den of thieves. Very piratey indeed. I believe our churches have every intention of serving God. But with today's technology, Jesus will probably be tempted to take a wrecking ball to some of the less loving ones, out of zeal for his Father's house. I don't think we have to worry about Jesus demolishing any buildings anytime soon. Still, too many of us are getting guilt trips and insults, and what we really need is a lot more encouragement. People who take more than they give want you to feel bad. Let's get back to teaching, inspiring, and helping each other. Together we can reach our full potential. Light rail should expand to Old Town and Victory Crossing, Churchland, and Suffolk too. In a few minutes, passengers from Norfolk and Virginia Beach could ride into town and spend all their money here. It's faster and more reliable than those broken down buses. Let's see. Oh yes, and a good movie to watch is Hobo with a Shotgun. That script is exaggerated, but it reminds me so much of this city and all the things we need to work on. But just don't shoot anybody. It's always a pleasant sight to see criminals cleaning up the community. I want to thank the inmates for all the great work they're doing, and I hope they can do much more. And I want to thank all of you for listening to me rant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Thornton, I'm not good at this, but I'd like to say R.
Miss Linda Maccabee.
Is that a pirate? R. Close.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm Linda Maccabee, and
Could you speak into the mic, please?
Pull it over. Yes, ma'am.
a little bit shorter. I'm Linda Maccabee. I'm the executive director and founder for Hampton Roads Hounds for Heroes. I live at 1520 Barron Street in Portsmouth. Our training site is located at 3207 Glasgow. I'd like to acknowledge my staff, board, and supporters by having them stand. Quite the posse. I'd like to ask the Sergeant of Arms to pass the packets to the City Council members. You've already passed this.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Kenneth Wright, Vice Mayor Elizabeth Simas, and City Council members. I'm here to introduce to you and the great citizens of Portsmouth, the Hampton Roads Hounds for Heroes. What we do is we provide specially trained dogs to veterans who have PTSD. We are pulling these dogs from local shelters, and we're training them at the facility over on Glasgow. We're in a great location, and we picked this location for several reasons. We're near the hospital. We're near the Naval Hospital. And we're very easy to find, right on the corner of, essentially, it's London and High. I think this is going to bring a lot of positive influence to the city of Portsmouth. We're planning on putting out anywhere between 12 to 24 dogs per year to veterans who have PTSD. And I think this will give the city of Portsmouth, it'll be a big shining star, hopefully soon. Any questions?
Yeah, let me ask, how do you identify the veterans? Are you able to tap into a database, tell you who they are and where they're located so you'll know just how many dogs to prepare? Or?
There's generally about a 2-year waiting list for a dog.
Oh, okay.
A psychiatric service
dog.
dog.
That much demand. I got you.
So we are relying on the local psychiatric community to write prescriptions for the dogs. Each dog, by the time we get it out of the shelter and it's fully trained for a veteran, it's around $15,000 to $20,000. Okay. So they're expensive.
All right, thank you. And you're located once again where?
It's 3207 Glasgow.
Okay.
I think at one time it was the old post office.
Yeah.
Okay, you know where it is. But yes, we are going to be having an open house, and you all will be invited, and we'd love to have a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We'd
you.
love to be there. Good night.
Mr. Nathan Clark.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Clark, and I reside at 808 Pacific Avenue here in the city of Portsmouth. Tonight I'm here to speak about some of our issues with our public safety. I know we've already been told that it's a personnel matter and it will not be addressed, but the fact that one of our firefighters has been disciplined for exercising his First Amendment rights in an off-duty capacity, making a statement which the citizens need to be aware of about the safety and security. The issue was we had a structure fire in Churchland in the month of December. The first engine on scene, it took 6 minutes. The ladder truck was out of service at the same station, which would have been on scene at the same time if it had left the same station. It was not manned because of staffing. We had to wait for ladder 1 to respond from station 1 on Effingham Street, and it took 18 minutes. 18 minutes is a long time, and that can be deadly for citizens or firefighters. This is unacceptable, and the fact that that fire was at about 2 a.m. in the morning, between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning, there's no traffic at that time. If that fire or another fire would have happened later in the day when there's traffic, it will take a lot longer than 18 minutes for ladder 1 to arrive on scene. The reason I know this, I used to be assigned to ladder 1. I'm retired from the city of Portsmouth. I've done public safety. I've been a deputy. I've been a police officer and a firefighter. So I'm very knowledgeable about the public safety in this city. That is a danger that our citizens are living with every day. For example, right now, I checked it before I came here to speak tonight. Ladder 3 is currently out of service right now. So if we have a fire in Churchland tonight, we'll be in the same situation we were in December. We are about 40 firefighters short from what we need to staff. Last night, someone from the city told the media they were only 4 firefighters short. I have no clue where that number came from, and that number is nowhere close to being what it is. I have my numbers from a fire department roster showing the vacancies of all the pieces within the city. So I know where my numbers come from. This is hiring freezes that need to be lifted. This is for the safety of our citizens. As far as the individual speaking to the media, I know you said you're not going to address the personnel issue, but I believe last night Councilman Whitaker made a statement to the media, and he said he agreed with the disciplinary actions on the firefighter. Well, that's something that I believe he should have consulted an attorney, city attorney, before he made that statement, because that is so far out of line. Basically, it infringes First Amendment rights. We're following this up with we're with the International Association of Firefighters. We're taking it to the state level and the international level, and this has already drawn attention all the way as far as the governor's office here in Virginia. So this is not something that's going away. So we will be following this up. But as far as the citizens pay their taxes. They expect when they dial 911 to get the services that they're paying these taxes for. All they know is if they need a police officer or a firefighter and all the equipment necessary, they need it when they call for help, and this is what we should be providing to the citizens. So this should be addressed. You need to fill all these vacancies and cut the hiring freezes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. Are you representing an organization?
Yes, sir. I'm speaking for the Portsmouth Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, Local 539. We are part of the International Association of Firefighters.
Okay. All right. Very good. And you spoke with some specificity to the course of events that happen on a particular night. Do you have access to that kind of information? I'm not aware, and you sounded very articulate with what you had, and I just want to make sure.
I have the information on it. The actual information, the personnel matter that they suspended our firefighter for, the actual information was given to the media from Deputy Chief Stockton. It was printed out and handed to the media. So they're suspending a firefighter for information that was given to the media by a deputy chief. So I think y'all need to.
So I guess my question was, the answer is you're recanting what was presented by you say Chief Stockton?
No, Chief Stockton, the deputy chief with the fire department, he provided the media with a hard copy of the run report. The run report, all it does is tell the apparatus that was dispatched, the time dispatched, the time they were en route, and the time they were on scene.
And that's what you just repeated from the run report, or
yes,
you got another source?
No, the information I'm repeating is the same information that was on CAD system that tells when they were dispatched and when they arrived on scene.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for what you do. Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, Mr. Clark.
Yes, sir.
You you quoted. Were you quoting something that you heard me say, or from the media?
It was from the media that they referenced you, that they had a quote from you on TV last night.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you, did you hear me say that?
No, the media referenced you.
Right. So you are using a secondhand source trying to quote something that I supposedly said.
So are you recanting what the media
it's
said?
Nothing
Are you saying that's not true?
Well, let me just say this to you. It's nothing for me to recant with you. Now, my question to you is, you mentioned that there's a human resource shortage of firefighters.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, have you done some type of human resource or workforce analysis to show the allocation of what firefighters should be within that department, or are you simply going by a vacancy? And the reason I'm asking that is because you said you worked in the fire department.
That's correct.
Right now.
No, I do not work there now.
No, I said you worked.
That's correct.
In the fire department. Now, did you have training in the fire department? Did you have certain firefighters who were trainers, who were in the training department?
We do have a training division.
Right,
if that's the question you're asking, I'm not sure about your question.
Do you have firefighters who are in the training division?
We do have firefighters in training division.
Do you presently have firefighters in the training division?
We sure do.
Right. Now, is there an academy where there are presently firefighters about to be hired?
Actually, right now, the numbers, and I will tell you the numbers that I've been told.
No, I'm just asking.
Now, none have been hired.
Right.
As
Okay.
today,
So
none.
that's my point. It's an allocation issue.
No, you're incorrect.
So
no, you're incorrect.
I think as far as the
Clark,
council,
Mr. Clark, let him answer the question, and then I'll let you answer.
As far as the council is concerned, I would like, so that we don't keep getting a lot of anecdotal type of information, Dr. Patton, if we could get some type of analysis of the allocation of resources in the fire department as it applies to staffing, to make sure that even though we are saying we have certain firefighters in certain positions, those are the positions they need to be in. And that, I think, a more scientific approach than keep listening to all of this anecdotal data would be better.
One council member should be.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Then the other question is, it going to be really pure?
My question is,
yes,
Mr. Mayor, can I answer the question?
As soon as I announce it, not me.
Is it going to be pure?
Well, what I'm asking, I would think you would appreciate that we would want to see if we have persons in positions where they need to be. Now, I don't see why you would object to that.
I say we need a consensus. I don't understand what you're really asking for.
Well, for example, let me give you an example.
40 people short allocation is out the window.
Let me give you an example. Now, I just asked Mr. Clark about who's in training. Okay. So if we have certain firefighters who are in training, but we don't have an academy going on, then those firefighters can be manning engines or in other positions. We have about 8 fire marshals. There used to be 2. Okay? So why do we have 8 now? They could be, and I don't know the answer to that. And I'm saying to sit here and try to answer it anecdotally and show vacancies, that's doing a disservice to the citizens and to us.
He had factual information.
No, he just has information on the number of vacancies. That does not necessarily
We have
correlate.
vacancies because you voted to freeze the hiring positions
You're trying
of
to
police and fire people.
You're trying to.
You
playing.
The mayor, Cherry, Edmonds, and yourself.
You're playing to the crowd. All I'm asking is you're just playing to the crowd, and I can appreciate you doing that, but it does not negate the fact that he's giving anecdotal information. I'm asking Dr. Patton, who has a PhD and does research, I'm asking her to bring that type of information back to us.
And let me, hold on. Can you answer the question, and then I'll ask you to take a seat?
The question, basically you asked him the question, try to make it sound, do I have human resources training?
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
It's my turn. It's my turn. You did say that because I'm here, and I did hear it. And you're trying to say that I don't have proper information. These are the district reports. It shows every piece of apparatus in the city and how many people are assigned to it and how many vacancies there are to it. And as you so eloquently stated earlier that you can read, it would behoove you to get copies of these from the fire department and read them for yourself.
Mr. Clark, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You have to be able to interpret it correctly. And just because it says 40, just because it says 40, that doesn't mean.
Have you ever been on a fire engine before, sir?
Have you ever interpreted
Have you
done statistical analysis?
I didn't think so.
Mr. Clark, good night, sir.
Thank you.
All right. You ready? Okay, Vice Mayor Simmons.
I think all of you know that I am a strong proponent for public safety. However, there is not one of us sitting on this dais that know diddly squat about running a fire engine or a fire department. Now, we have a new fire chief that is coming to work Monday, Dr. Patton?
Monday, March 14th at 10 a.m. here in City Council chambers.
And we'll look forward to his swearing in. And so I think it would be ever so helpful if the type of information that Dr. Whitaker rightfully requested, that the fire chief, who doesn't have anecdotal information but real information, can come before this council after he's had a moment to catch his breath and tell us for the upcoming budget, listen, folks, I need this much money to pay for this many firefighters and this many fire marshals and this many trucks and ladders and whatever he does or doesn't need. And that's the voice we should be listening to.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker.
I think what you're asking for, that would go through the city manager. What I am saying is that even his saying that, we don't need it from just an anecdotal. It needs to be scientifically approached, and that's what we right. But I think still that study would be beneficial to the city.
The professional information, that's all.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it can be controlled by 4 voters.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Jack Neely.
You might not get a phone call.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Jack Neely. I live in the Craddock section of Portsmouth, and my subject tonight is the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. The reason for my standing here this evening is Councilman Moody and Councilman Meeks were fined for speaking
out of service, out of your
closed session.
Closed session. It seems to me, reading the First Amendment, that you're in violation of the First Amendment. And people should pay attention and you should do something about that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, sir. Thank you for coming. Mr. Moody? You okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I was fine for saying prior to a closed session what the subject matter was going to be. I wasn't fine for discussing what happened in a closed session.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk?
Big difference.
Mr. Donald Wilder.
Mayor, Assistant Mayor, City Manager, and Council personnel. I'm Captain Wilder, retired from Portsmouth Fire Department, past president of some time from the local 539, and I used to attend all of these meetings. And I have to say, y'all have done your best to confuse me. Not that that's hard to do. It's really been a mess. But what I would like to say, specifically addressing this matter, is I've said in this council room, and I don't believe any of y'all were here when they went and discussed the issue about having closed meetings, and it was concluded at a meeting I was present at, and that they couldn't. The only thing they could do in there were personnel matters. In other words, anything else that occurs in there, is illegal to withhold it. And the impression I had at the time is that was based on the law. But in either case, it was generally accepted by the council at that time. And it seems logical to me and reasonable that the only thing should be secreted should be personnel matters. Other than that, as a citizen also, I forgot to add my other qualification, that we should all be able to know what's going on within our group here. So I would ask y'all to direct the city manager to research that law, or the secretary to research the records for that evening. But it was agreed upon, because I was here, that y'all would only do personnel matters. And then again, I believe that the law that was discussed at that same evening is that it is unlawful to secret it, public information. So I thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilder. Good night.
Mr. Sergio Neal.
Good evening, all present, City Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, citizens of Portsmouth. My name is Sergio Neal. I'm the chairman of the Circle of Youth community outreach organization based in Portsmouth. We wanted to invite all of you to bring you and your families out to the Churchland Library on April the 2nd for the youth empowerment session that we're hosting that day. We're going to educate the youth, not only from Portsmouth, but for all people that want to come out and learn about starting a business and how to be entrepreneurs, and to have a thank you, Dr. Patton. I couldn't get it out for the world. And just learn about how to be financially stable and be productive citizens, to start businesses not only in the city of Portsmouth, but throughout the country. I myself am an operations manager for a restaurant franchise, and this is something else I wanted to touch on. I'm sorry. The date, again, is April the 2nd. The time is from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Churchland Library. And we have several guest speakers I need to mention before I go into my next phase of what I wanted to say. Some of these people are actually citizens of Portsmouth. They sit on boards. One of our guest speakers is Dr. Jackie Walker, who was appointed to the ADA board. We have AJ Simmons and Gary Gooding Jr., the young man. He's a 9-year-old business owner from Portsmouth. He has his own business, Righteous Kids, and he's going to be one of the guest speakers. We also have the Man Foundation as one of the vendors, Glamour Prestige, which is run by Dr. Jackie Walker. Letha Ballard, her organization deals with single mothers. And we also have author Quiana Fruchel, who has written several children's books as one of our vendors. And these people, most of all of our vendors and guest speakers, all of them live in Portsmouth, and this is the opportunity for your children to learn from people who started in Portsmouth to come up. Now, my next thing is this, and this is my advice to everybody on City Council. I'm an operations manager for a restaurant franchise, as I said before. We're looking to expand. If you want businesses to come to Portsmouth, present Portsmouth in a different light. All of these people like me that come to these meetings, I don't live in Portsmouth, I live in Chesapeake, but my home is Portsmouth, and I want to put a restaurant here. But I can't go to the owners that I work with and say, put a restaurant in Portsmouth, and they come and see stuff like this. They're not going to want to put a restaurant in Portsmouth with public safety being an issue. They're not going to want to pay higher insurance on their business because they don't. The insurance company doesn't feel like there's enough police officers and firefighters in the city to protect them. My mother died in Portsmouth in 2005. It took an ambulance 20 minutes to get to her.
Thank you, Mr.
And I'm just letting you guys know that that's just what the real is. I watch these meetings all the time, and that's what it is.
Mr. Jack Lilienthal, Jr.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Jack Lilienthal. I'm a retired firefighter, and I presently reside in Moyock, North Carolina, but my family owns property here. Our family lives here. We shop here. We come to the Commodore here. We visit my brother-in-law at his group home here. So we have many, many ties left. So kind of out of order here, I was supposed to try to follow Mr. Alexander. He spoke about the 1,400 HRA funds, and again, thank you for your consideration of that proposal tonight, and I hope you do continue to extend that to our over 65 retirees. I'm speaking specifically tonight, touching on something Mr. Alexander touched on, and that is the PSOB, or Public Safety Officers Benefit Act. There is the Internal Revenue Service grants a $3,000 tax credit, not a deduction, but a credit right off the top of your income to qualified public safety officers. And what that means is if your hospitalization benefit, if your health insurance is deducted from your pension check, okay, or from, if you're an active firefighter, police officer, through your paycheck, if it's an employer qualified plan, which your exchange is, okay, and if that premium is deducted through your check, then you're eligible for the $3,000 tax credit. In addition to having the possibility of having lose the $1,400, the people that are over 65 retirees have lost this $3,000 tax credit simply because they're no longer in the city's plan as it was designed, but they've also lost the benefit of having payroll deduction for their premiums. What I'm asking tonight is to restore the payroll deduction. I believe, I'm not a tax person, certainly not an IRS person, but I believe that the plans, your exchanges, are going to meet the definition of this federal law as an employer-sponsored plan. And if we can get back to deducting the premiums, then this is going to restore this $3,000 tax credit. It might not mean much to a lot of people, but depending upon your adjusted gross income, it's a loss of $200 to $400 a year. So in addition to losing $1,400, we're faced with the possibility that they're losing this additional money. So John Hancock, who handles our pension system, police fire pension system, deducts our taxes, deducts Medicare. So there's no reason in the world why they can't deduct the premium. Okay. And hopefully we can get back to getting that done. If you could instruct the city manager to
Thanks for that
to go down that
information,
road.
sir.
Appreciate
it. Yep.
Appreciate it.
I got to ask, are you over 65?
January.
You look good, sir. Thank you, and thanks for coming up from North Carolina, and thanks for that. I did not know that.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Our final speaker is Ms. Frida Bryan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor, Dr. Patton. My name is Frida Bryan. I'm here representing your American Cancer Society. First, I'd like to thank you all for your past support with American Cancer Society as it relates to maybe relay or making strides against breast cancer. And no, I can hear the question, Mr. Mayor, it's not October and I'm not here talking about breast cancer. But I would like to bring your attention that it is March, which is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. So my two asks are two things: that you consider becoming a partner with our 80 by 2018 campaign, which is by 2018, we want at least 80% of the population that is age appropriate to get colorectal cancer screening. Last year, there was a report that was released identifying hotspots in the nation. Unfortunately, I have to report to you that our city was ranked with 26 other counties in Virginia as the top 3 hotspots in the country for colon cancer mortality. So on briefly, what the commitment states is that colorectal cancer is a major public health problem. It is the second leading cause of cancer death and a cause of considerable suffering among more than 140,000 adults diagnosed with colorectal cancer each year. However, colon cancer can be detected early at a curable stage, and it can be prevented through the detection and removal of a precancerous polyps, and that's just part of the commitment. I know we have a lot of issues that we agree to disagree on, but saving lives shouldn't and should not be one of those. We have awarded a grant to the community clinic on Lincoln Street to provide $5 fit tests to those who have that center as a home. A question that may come up is, well, what's the difference between a colonoscopy, which the recommended age for an average risk person is 50, or a fit test, which can be done in the privacy of your own home and sent back to your medical provider? Well, I'm here to tell you that the best test is the one that the patient does, whatever that may be. But those statistics that we have is intolerable. We've said many of times that we want to be number 1 and number 2 on a lot of things in Portsmouth. And as a Navy veteran, I'm here to tell you that my medical center for cancer treatment is at Naval Medical Center, Portsmouth. My church is here in Portsmouth. I don't want to report news that way as far as the ranking, but it is what it is. So how can we stop that? Well, first you have to ask yourself, have I gotten the screening? 1 out of 3 adults currently do not have the screening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bryant, let me just say, first of all, thank you for your advocacy and thank you for what you do in our community. There isn't a place or a corner in Portsmouth that I can travel when these matters come up that your name doesn't come up, and how people are so educated and thankful for what you do. And I think I called you when I was in Atlanta a few months ago, and we were right next to the corporate headquarters, and all I could think of was you. And that's an impression and good news that we all should share about citizens who care about things and go the extra mile that you do. So thank you very much for that.
It's a ministry for me. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Any other questions?
Yes. So, Ms. Wright, are you asking about a partnership with the city?
It's actually a pledge and I'll submit this, but nationally, over 700 organizations, health systems, cities. We do have it in front of the governor right now to take the pledge, and I'll happily share that it does not change the budget. It does not affect any aspect of nothing but stating that as a city, we want to bring forth the information in reference on how we can do. And that, again, may just be asking yourself, one, have you had the screening? And two, your staff or your citizens, and providing the resource. And I would gladly submit a copy of this and electronically to everybody. Hopefully that answered your question, Dr. Whitaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Good night.
Dr. Edmonds.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say some closing remarks. You know, sometimes we can't see the best of Portsmouth because of little itty-bitty things. And we should be a team-spirited group. That simply means together everybody achieving much. And we don't have to agree with everything everybody says, but we don't need to have a disagreeable spirit in such that we start name-calling, pointing at each other. We have two senior council persons on this council that have seen more than most of us have, as Bill Moody and Elizabeth Simmons. But we all love Portsmouth, not just sections of it, but all of it. And sometimes it's kind of hard to accept some of the rhetoric and some of the hard talk that you give sometimes. But if you ever just get a hold of yourself and drive down Frederick Boulevard, I know that's not a whole lot, but if you drive down there, it will remind you of the old Portsmouth, and we have come a long way. We're not the smartest, and we're not one vote, but 4 votes carry whatever it is that we have to do, and you honor that. And you learn to get past it if you were against it, or if the shoe was flipped on the other foot. But we have to make sure that we show some integrity because everybody watches us. But what they don't see are the greater things that we've done. And we need to have dignity in all of our neighborhoods with our elected officials, whether we like them or don't like them. And if you're a Christian, just pray for them. Prayer does change things. But when we get almost in somebody's face and say some of the derogatory things that we say, I feel the hurt for some of them. I'm proud to be on the city council because I wanted to be a part of a city that I grew up in, have some input, and make it greater than it is. The greatness of Portsmouth has not arrived yet, but we can't let it arrive in a disarrayment spirit that we have amongst ourselves. So let's take one thing at a time, see what we can do, come together. We might make some errors along the way, but we're trying our best. So before you close off on sleep tonight, I can say this because I am a preacher. Just ask God to show us a better way and to help us to love one another. Thank you, and y'all have a good night.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.